So we are going to start a topic that is blood vessels. Blood vessels are basically, there are three types of blood vessels, that are arteries, veins, and third one is capillaries. Blood capillaries, or simple like capillaries. So basically there are three types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. These two, arteries and veins, are made up of three layers. They are having a complex structure, but capillaries are made up of only one type of layer. So arteries and veins, they both are made up of three types of layer, and the layers are same, but they are made up of three layers, and capillaries are different. They are made up of only one type of layer. Now let's discuss about that three layers of both arteries and veins. Basically, first layer is tunica externa, that is also known as tunica adventitia. That is the second name of tunica externa, that is tunica adventitia. Basically, tunica externa is made up of a fibrous connective tissues. Now, what type of connective tissues? Two types of connective tissues, that are collagen and elastin. Like tunica externa is made up of these two, collagen and elastin, that are the types of fibrous connective tissues. Now, for what purpose they are used? They are because they provide elasticity and strength to that layer, tunica externa. They are made up of a fibrous connective tissues. Like which type of fibrous connective tissues? Tunica externa is made up of collagen, elastin, that are the types of fibrous connective tissues. Collagen and elastin basically provide the elasticity and strength to the tunica externa. If we talk about the vasa vasorum is basically a net, we can say a network of blood vessels that basically comes from the aorta of the heart. These are similar as the blood vessels. These are not the blood vessels actually. Like blood vessels are these arteries, veins, and capillaries, but these the vasa vasorum are basically similar type of blood vessels. That's why we are just calling them a network of blood vessels that basically comes from the aorta, that from heart. So that comes from aorta and moves to the other blood vessels of the other walls of the blood vessels, we can say other walls of blood vessels, because like it moves to that walls of the blood vessel. Blood vessels, what are other blood vessels? Other blood vessels are arteries and veins. Vasa vasorum basically enters into the uh, tunica externa layer, directly into tunica externa layer of both arteries and veins. It directly enters into uh, the first layer, that is a tunica externa. So that is why I'm just discussing vasa vasorum here in tunica externa, because vasa vasorum basically enters into the first layer, that is a tunica externa, and vasa vasorum are basically the network of blood vessels that come from the aorta and move to the other walls of the blood vessels. Now what they provide to that walls? They provide oxygenated blood supply to that the walls of the blood vessels, as well as provide a nourishment to the blood to the walls of blood vessels. That is the work of these vasa vasorum that enters into the walls of the blood vessel, that moves to the walls of the blood vessel, that provide oxygenated blood supply to that walls and provide the nourishment to the walls of blood vessels. And in return they collect the waste that is accumulated in the blood, in the walls of the blood vessel. That in return the vasa vasorum basically collect all the waste from the blood vessels and takes it out from the heart. So that is from the like arteries and veins, the all the waste that is present in the arteries and veins, so it just blood vessel, it carries that waste and takes out from the arteries and veins from. Now, if we talk about the second layer, that is tunica media. Tunica media, that is also known as tunica muscularis. Why it is known as muscularis? Because it is made up of smooth muscles. And we know that smooth muscles are unstriated, means no bands are present in them. They are single nucleated muscles, means they work involuntary. They are not in our hands, they are involuntary. So tunica media is basically made up of a smooth muscle, that is a middle layer, that is tunica media, that is a tunica, or we can say a tunica muscularis. Then if we talk about the third layer, that is tunica interna. Tunica interna is basically also the other name of tunica interna is tunica intima. Tunica intima is the innermost layer. It is the innermost layer, but it also have two further more layers. First outer layer is elastin layer, and inner layer is endothelium layer. Like what is like tunica interna is the innermost layer. It is the innermost layer, like it is present in inner side. So but it has like two more further layers divided. It is further divided into two more layers, that is outer layer and inner layer. Outer one layer is elastin layer, inner layer is endothelium. Like it is not outer of all the like arteries, but it is outer of that tunica interna. If we talk about the transverse section of arteries and the transverse section of veins, what is the difference between them? Like layers are same, but there is some difference, like I'm making here. That is a layer, first layer, that is tunica externa, and here this one is the first layer, that is tunica externa in veins. What is the difference between them? It is like very visible to us that the first layer, externa layer, the tunica externa, is thinner here, and here it is thicker. The tunica externa layer, that is thicker here, and it is thinner in arteries. Then if we talk about tunica media, now this one is the layer, this one is the tunica media, and this one is tunica media. This one, now the difference is visible, that now this media, tunica media, is thicker. Why it is thicker? Because it has it is a muscular layer, so muscles are present in it, so that is why it is thicker layer. And here in veins it is a thinner layer. So here the tunica media is thicker and tunica media is thinner here. Now the last layer, that is tunica interna. As I said, it is more further divided into two layers. One is elastin layer, and inside it, that is uh, um, endothelium layer. That endothelium layer here in arteries are more narrower. So in arteries, the endothelium layer is narrower, and here in veins, that is the elastin layer, and that is the wider layer, that is wider, that is endothelium means here the endothelium is narrower, here the endothelium is wider. That is the difference between veins and arteries. The first externa is thinner here, here it is thicker. In media it is thicker here, in tunica media is thinner here. Now the endothelium layer is narrower here, here it is wider.